Today, we are cracking the code on cloud computing. You've probably heard the alphabet soup: IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. But what do they actually mean? And more importantly, why should you care? Well, stick around, because we're about to make it all crystal clear. Let's get into it. This right here is the big question, isn't it? It trips a lot of people up. But these aren't just random letters. They represent three totally distinct ways to use the power of the cloud. Each one has a specific job, and by the end of this, you'll be able to tell them apart in a heartbeat. You know, a really great way to picture this is as a stack. Think of it like this. At the very bottom, you've got the raw foundation. That's IaaS. Then in the middle, you have a platform to build on, which is PaaS. And right at the very top, you have the finished product that you actually use. That's SaaS. Each layer builds right on top of the one below it. So, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with a big picture. Then we'll dive into each model one by one, and we'll wrap up by comparing them so you know exactly which one to pick for your next project. First things first, let's get our heads around the single most important idea that makes this whole thing click. It's all about a division of labor. And here it is. The core difference really just boils down to one simple question. Who manages what? Are you responsible for the servers and the operating systems, or is the cloud provider handling all that for you? Seriously, this one idea is the key that unlocks everything else. All right, let's start with the model you're probably already using every single day, maybe without even realizing it. I'm talking about software as a service, or SaaS. With SaaS, you're pretty much just using a finished product. I mean, think about any application you use through your web browser. You don't own it, you're not managing the servers it's running on, you just pay for a license and you use it. It's software delivered on demand.
And the advantages of SaaS? Well, they all come down to one word: convenience. You save a ton of time because you're not wrestling with maintenance. The costs are predictable, which makes budgeting a walk in the park. And getting your team up and running is incredibly simple.
SaaS is absolutely everywhere. Just think about the tools you might use for managing customer relationships, or for handling business processes, or even for something like data encryption. These are all perfect examples of SaaS in action. Okay, let's peel back a layer and move down the stack to our next model, Platform as a Service, or PaaS. Now this one is for all the builders and creators out there. The key thing to get about PaaS is that it gives developers a whole environment to build, test, and launch their own applications. The provider takes care of all the underlying stuff: the servers, the operating system, the storage, and that frees up developers to focus on what they love to do: write amazing code. And the benefits here are just huge for development teams. They can optimize their entire workflow by focusing only on the application itself. It helps centralize everything for better teamwork, and it massively cuts down costs because you're not buying and maintaining all that IT gear yourself. And PaaS is super versatile. Sure, its most popular use is for straight-up development work, but you can also use PaaS platforms to build your own custom low-code CRM tools, or even manage really complex data streams for your apps. And that brings us down to the very foundation of the cloud stack: infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. This is where you get the most control. The best way to think of IaaS is like renting the fundamental building blocks of a data center. The provider gives you the virtual servers, the network, the storage, but everything else, from the operating system on up, is your responsibility to install, configure, and manage. The real power of IaaS is in its flexibility. You can scale your resources up or down in an instant to handle, say, a sudden traffic spike. You can customize your entire virtual infrastructure to your exact needs. And you get access to absolutely massive computing power without the massive upfront cost of building your own data center from scratch. This makes IaaS perfect for the really big, complex jobs. Things like hosting resource-hungry websites, creating rock-solid disaster recovery plans, or, and this is a huge one, powering AI and machine learning projects that chew through enormous amounts of data. All right, so we've looked at each model on its own. Now, let's put them all side by side to make the differences totally obvious. This is where it's all going to click into place. This table just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly shows that idea of shared responsibility. With IaaS, you see the provider only handles the raw infrastructure. Move over to PaaS, and they add the platform and OS to their to-do list. And with SaaS, they're managing the whole shebang. As you move from left to right, the provider takes on more and more of the work. So, how do you choose? Well, a really helpful way to think about this is to compare it to housing. SaaS is like staying in a hotel.
Everything is managed for you, you just show up with your suitcase and use it. PaaS is like renting an apartment. You get the core structure and utilities, but you bring your own furniture and decorations. And IaaS, well, that's like owning a house. You have complete control, but you're also responsible for everything from the plumbing to the roof. So let's boil it all down one last time. Think about it in terms of what you're doing. With SaaS, you simply use the software. With PaaS, you build on the platform. And with IaaS, you manage the infrastructure. Use, build, manage. That's really the core difference. And there you have it, the cloud computing stack completely demystified. Now you have the knowledge to make the right call for your projects. So the only question left is, which model are you going to use to power your next big idea?